I went to Avondale College Primary School starting in second grade. My parents believed, along with I think the teachings of the Seventh-day Adventist prophet and founder Ellen G. White, that it's a good idea to start kids in school late, so I didn't start till I was age 8, second grade. Pretty much from that time forward I wanted to get close to the girls. That was pretty cruel. I remember I'd take sticks and I'd poke them, and I'd kind of lie by the steps so I could watch them walk up and down and see what color underwear they were wearing. Then I'd announce it. And surprisingly, this didn't make any of the girls want to get close to me. Then in 5th grade, for the first time, there was this girl who really liked me. And I didn't know how to respond, so I would put tacks with the sharp side up on her desk, and she'd sit down on these. She was a little bit chubby, and she'd sit down on these tacks and she'd start crying. She'd scream, and on other occasions I just kicked her. And one day she said to me, after I kicked her, "One day you too will love someone who'll kick you. You'll know how it feels." Never forget that. I remember I was going to a singles lunch at my Orthodox synagogue in 2002, and we had to introduce ourselves by saying 2 things we love. So I said, "I love sarcasm and irony." I was telling my therapist about it later, and she said, "That'll really make people want to get close to you." Certainly didn't score with any of the ladies that afternoon. It was the fall of 1987. I was taking my second political science class at Sierra Community College with my favorite teacher, Larry White. There was this good girl up front who liked me. So she was blonde, she was cute, but she wasn't slutty, she wasn't sexy, she was just a good girl. And she always sat up front. And I always sat in the back. That's my habit. About the only time I sit up front is when I'm struggling with a class and I have to give it my full attention. So I tend to be sarcastic and provocative in those days, and I like to ask very complicated questions to show off my erudition. I remember a friend in the class saying, "I never know what you're talking about." So this good girl is sitting up front before class, and she has her head resting on her books and her eyes closed. And I deliberately came up behind her and startled her. She started crying. And then through her tears, she reached for me, kind of put her hand on me. And we started talking, and she said she was transferring to UC Davis, and she hoped that I would come too. I let her go. I wonder what happened to her. I don't even remember her name. I just remember startling her, and I remember my deliberate cruelty, and I remember her tears and her reaching for me for comfort. It's not something I can forget. Then I took a biology class at Sierra Community College in the summer of 1988. I'd had chronic fatigue syndrome for about 4 months by this point. I had to reduce my class load from 25 units to 15 that spring semester. I had to cut my work hours as a gardener in half. Could no longer flee from myself into hard work. I had to just lie there and hope for salvation. So this hot blonde sat next to me in biology class, and she had this pure, spotless skin, and she always looked good in these white outfits. I just still remember this like all white. I think it's a skirt. When it's blouse, it's the whole thing. It's one outfit from top to her knees, white. Then her tan, brown skin underneath. The sexiest thing about this girl was her voice. She had this breathy, sexy, girlish voice. Oi, my Yetzer Hara was revving up. It was really hot for this girl. We started to get close. One day we're sitting in the back of the class, we're passing notes back and forth to each other, we're getting increasingly close. My anxiety kicked in, and I wrote something sarcastic to her that brought a tear to her eye. She wrote back to the effect that one genuine compliment is worth 100 smart-ass remarks. Got an A in that class, but I never saw her again. Don't even remember her name. Just remember her voice and her tears. The other day I met a nice girl, a good girl, a genuine girl, and a great writer. And I sent her a note asking for a phone number to discuss lofty moral issues. I didn't get her number.